Okay. In number 14, they are using a combination now of table form of a function and algebraic rule, which is a classic AP exam thing where they'll give you different forms of a function, not just algebraic rule, and make sure you can handle those. So I'll do at least part of it, and then I'll kind of guide you to see how to do the rest of it. All right. So in 14b, um, they have. Oh my gosh, is it g of f of x or f of g of x? G of f of x. This is b, by the way. 14b. G of f of x at x equals 1. That's where they want the derivative taken. Oh, negative 1. Okay. So how do you take the derivative of this? The same exact way you've been doing it with the other. This is actually a little easier because you don't have to write as much. I still got an inner function. I still got an outer function. So when you're taking the derivative, just think of the inner as a big old blob. So what is the derivative of g of blob? Well, it's g prime of that blob. That's the derivative. And then times the derivative of the inside. So what's the derivative of f? F prime. Okay? And then you're done. Like, that's the hard calculus part. Now they want it at negative 1. So guess what? Just do this. Plug in negative 1. Oops. Negative 1. And then now you go and you look up the table. So and this is a part that I'm not going to do on screen here, but just look up what is f of negative 1, and then plug that in. Did I listen to parenthesis there? Whatever f of negative 1 is, then let's say at 7 or something, then you'll know that just to look up g prime of 7, and then look up f prime of negative 1, and then you multiply those two. Okay, that's how you handle all of these. Let me do. Or at least let me check out C here. Yeah, C will be the same thing, except now we have, I won't spoil it, let me just write it first. 14C is f of x over g of x plus 2, and they need it right at x equals 0. Shazam. So, whoa, hello. So, guess what rule we need here, people that have derivative goggles on? This is the quotient rule. You have you have one function over another, total quotient rule. So, u equals f of x, v equals g of x plus 2, u prime is f prime. See how I'm doing that? I'm just taking the derivative. Since I don't know anything about the function, all I can do is say, well, f prime. And the 2 goes away. Low d high minus side d low all over the square. So we have f prime of x times this mess minus, for the quotient rule, f of x g prime of x. And then all over low squared. Like that. Okay? And then you need this right at 0. So you would just go plug 0 in to all of the x's there, and then just look up those table values. Okay? Let me see what the last one is. D. Sure, I can do that one. Negative cosine of f of x at x equals negative 1. Okay, so same deal here. You have the inner function. So I'm just going to say, hey, what's the derivative of cosine of blob? I'm kicking out the negative for a second. The derivative of cosine of blob is negative sine of that blob. So there's my minus sign. So a negative sine of that blob times the derivative of the inside, like that, okay? Now, negative, negative, that is just a positive. So you end up with your sine of f of x, and then times f prime of x, and then they need it right at -1, so do the same thing. Plug -1 in for the x's, and then just look them up on the tables. And hopefully that'll give you the right answer, okay?